reaction for Manchester City versus Manchester United. Massive game, and I'm going to say it again. Check out the preview from last night. No excuses. No excuses. Wolves have been to Manchester City and beaten them. Norwich have beaten them this season. They are no great shakes at the back. They haven't got Aguero. They are there to be beaten. And I think, look, I said at the start of the week I thought we would lose this game, but let's not have our expectations lowered. Let's not be a Burnley who beats Spurs and has a party about it and then goes and gets smashed by Man City. This is a Manchester derby. We go and win this game. I'm not having expectations lowered. If this team really is as good as it's meant to be, then momentum needs to become part of the thing. And there were some good questions about that. I just also want to say I'll be reading an email out at the end. Email from Phoebe Williams. Her dad, who watches the show, passed away at only 52 years of age last week. So thoughts with Phoebe and her family, and may rest in peace. I'll read your email out later. It really did touch me on that one. But let's fly straight into this Manchester United Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference. The injury news is what we want to talk about first, of course. No Paul Pogba. He's not back. I feel for those fans who were expecting him back this week. I never expected Pogba back. I mean, the reality is, if you follow his Instagram feed, he's only just started training this week back on grass. So he was never going to be back for the Spurs game, and I never thought he would be back for this game. So Paul Pogba is not part of this game. Martial could be on the bench, and I think that is quite significant because when you look at that bench on Wednesday night, it's so good that it went right with the 11 that we had, because there was nothing on the bench for the front three positions. We had Greenwood was playing, and then we had obviously James and Rashford, but the bench was Mata and Pereira as the attacking options, really. I think we also had Garner, but then it was two fullbacks, a centre-back and a goalkeeper. So even if Martial only makes the bench, I think that is really, really important for Manchester United. On Pogba, I know people are still saying he'll never play for United again. He's going to leave. Ollie himself said he hoped he'd have him back by New Year, and he's still hoping with that. So look, Pogba will play for Manchester United again. He will play for United again, and I can't see how he goes in January. So he'll probably play quite a few games. He'll probably go in the summer. But all this talk of Pogba not playing for Manchester United again, I just don't believe in that. Nana Atu says Ollie didn't sound very confident in that press conference, almost as if he was trying to lower our expectations for this match. I agree on that. We're going to come back on that. He actually uttered the words 24 hours less recovery than Burnley. He said it shouldn't be a factor in it because we're a young team and adrenaline. But dropping it in there, I agree. Let me just play you this though. This is something I really talking about a Manchester derby that we're building up for. Just listen to this.
David De Gea is totally and utterly past it in the modern era. He's a bygone relic of an era that's been left behind, and people like Ederson, Alisson, Ter Stegen, Manuel Neuer are absolutely, unequivocally, 1000% better for this game of football today.
So De Gea is a relic, and people like Ederson, Ter Stegen and Manuel Neuer and Alisson are way ahead of De Gea. I mean, look, check out the link in the video description. There's a lot more than that said by this Manchester City fan. You can leave, I've left my comments on that video. So the link's in the video description. Go and check it out after this one and have your say. All I would say is stunning stuff. Stunning stuff that a Manchester City fan knows so much about David De Gea to know that he is done at this level. David De Gea has had a very good season for Manchester United. David De Gea had a very bad season last year because of Ed Woodward and his contract negotiations with a player that needs concentration. So I agree that De Gea had a bad season last season, but to say he is done, I mean, you know what? Go and check out that guy's videos on YouTube as well. Man City won 2 titles in a row. He can barely get 10,000 views, and he's the biggest YouTuber for Man City. It just says everything about Man City. That does that. Nobody's interested in your shit opinions. It's not an unpopular opinion. It's just a totally and utterly trying to be controversial opinion. But check out the video and have your say on that. I'll remind you at the end. But let's get back into real football knowledge. Manchester United versus Manchester City press conference reaction. So Pogba's not going to play. Martial will be on the bench. And actually, if I had to choose between the two, I probably would have said Martial. Not because Martial's better than Pogba, but we haven't got any attacking options. So having Martial as an option tomorrow is more important than probably having Pogba, because yeah, Pogba makes us a better team. But if James gets injured or has a bad game, we've got no one to bring on. So having Martial back is important. It'd be great to have both back, but McTominay and Fred are playing so well at the moment. So and we've had a crap number 10 all season. So we just go with what we've got. he said a very interesting question. I think Ollie was a bit hesitant in this one. And I agree with that previous commenter. It has, it almost comes across as Ollie's nervous about this game in the press conference, because he was asked, is this a better team than the team that lost to Manchester City in April? And Ollie was instantly hesitant, and the journalist had to add another bit to the question. He said, I mean, in relation to, confidence and where the team is going. And Ollie said, well, the boys are up for it. And, this is where he said we've had 24 hours less recovery, but that shouldn't matter too much because we'll play off adrenaline. So he was hesitant to, so I would have thought he would have jumped straight in on that and said, well, remember where we were last April? We were crap. And where we are now, and we're meant to be all about the future, but I don't know why he was hesitant on that. Maybe he didn't understand the question, I don't know, but he was a little bit hesitant on that. He was then also asked what I felt was the best question, and I think it was Simon Stone who asked this. He said, we've done very well against the big teams, the Chelseas, the Spurs, the Liverpools. Why can't we build on that? Effectively, how come we're, basically, why does the team get up for big games but can't get up for the lesser games? And Ollie, I mean, some of his answers to this, some people will find a little bit funny to this. I mean, he said the Premier League is hard. It's a compliment to how hard the league is, and it's fine margins, apart from for Leicester, Chelsea, City and Liverpool. And I thought, well, you've just named 4 teams who don't struggle with fine margins there, and we're Manchester United, who always should be one of the top 4 clubs in the country. So to answer that question, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's theory is that the reason we're good against good teams but we're not so good against the so-called lesser teams is because the Premier League is so competitive and it's fine margins and anybody can beat anybody, which actually is accurate because we are a mid-table team. So a mid-table team can beat the teams above them and teams below them. The reality is we shouldn't be in that position, and he's blown his own excuse apart because Leicester are not struggling for consistency and Chelsea are not struggling for consistency, and they don't have the budget, and their managers came in after he did. So he has just exposed that he's massively underperforming with a poor excuse for me there. You can't just say, well, we're losing to the lesser teams because it's fine margins and it's really competitive, when we've got the biggest wage bill in the league and we're Manchester United. We're underperforming. I would like to have seen a more honest answer there, because at this moment in time with Ollie, there are people who are backing him, there are people who are not backing him, and when he's asked a question about why are you really inconsistent, I think it's a real cop-out to go, oh, the league's competitive. Well, look at Leicester. Less money than us, they're not struggling. Chelsea, they're not inconsistent. You've got the biggest wage bill, you've got the biggest club in the country, and you're going to hide behind the fact that it's a competitive league. It's a load of nonsense. That's a rubbish response. What he should have said is, it's not acceptable. We are very good against the top teams, but we've got to find that consistency against the lesser teams. It's not acceptable that we're putting in those performances, because the players need to get that message. And what message do the players get if they watch his press conference today? Oh, it's a really hard league. Some you're going to win, some you're going to lose. It's not the mentality to have, and this is not digging Ollie out at all. This is from top to bottom at the club. When you're asked why you're inconsistent, you can't just say, well, the league's really competitive. You can't put yourself on the same page as Bournemouth with an 11,000 capacity and barely got the budget or the squad that we've got. We've got to be better than that. There's got to be a message from the club that, as I said after the Spurs game, this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable to beat Spurs and then lose to Bournemouth and West Ham and Newcastle. That's not acceptable. And he sort of answers it that it is acceptable because it's a competitive league. No, we've got the biggest bloody wage bill. We're the biggest club in the country. It's not acceptable. And I would like him to have said that to get the message across to the players that it's not acceptable. He should have said, look, we're doing really well against the top 6, which shows we can be in that top 6 area that we want to be, but we've got to be better against those lesser teams. We've got to be more consistent because it's not acceptable. We need some strength. Verbally, we need some strength from the club. He also said, but he did say, in fairness, we need consistency. We've got to turn that doubt into belief. And the way to do that is, obviously, he said that we came into the Spurs game, there was a lot of doom and gloom, not from us. We believe in ourselves. We've got to go and turn that doubt into belief, and that's exactly spot on. And I liked that, because that is what he's got to do. And that's why I think tomorrow against Manchester City, we've got to go and get a result. And I think many people would be very happy with a draw. We'd be over the moon with a win, over the blue moon with a win. But what we cannot do is go and lose that game of football. And I, before the Spurs game, was like, well, what we get against Spurs is all we're going to get because City are going to beat us. And we aren't favourites against City. Ollie even said that they're probably one of the best teams in the world at the moment. And I wouldn't go that far, but we have got to go and beat them tomorrow or get a draw out of them. We cannot just sit back and wait to be beaten, because we will be beat. We've got to go and cause them problems. And the reality is, I've said this before, if you're not confident about tomorrow, just think about this for a minute. What's Manchester City's weakness? Well, Aguero's not playing. That's a big loss. Laporte's not playing. That's an even bigger loss because it makes them weak at the back. They're a possession-based team who are going to have a lot of the ball. They're going to leave space at the back. What do Manchester United like to do? Sit back and hit a team on the break. And we've probably got the most informed striker in the league at the moment with Marcus Rashford. So it's set up nice for United. If we defend well and we hit them on the break well, we can win that game. It might not be pretty. It might not be the way we want to be playing it over the next few years. But for the now, I think it's set up for United to win. And let's not forget, it's not that long ago that Wolves beat... I think Wolves beat Man City when they had Aguero. He might not have started, but he certainly wasn't injured, I don't think. But even if he wasn't, United have got to go and win this game of football or get a draw. It's not acceptable. And I'll be very angry tomorrow night if we get this result against Spurs that I think is open to interpretation as to whether it was a tactical masterclass or not. But we got the win, great. If we then go and lose the derby, where are we again? We've got to get some momentum. And I think this is a massive opportunity because beat Spurs... Don't get beat by City, even a draw. Then Everton at home, win that. Watford away, you got to win that. Newcastle at home, Boxing Day, win that. Burnley away, we can win that. And then it's Arsenal. So there's a real opportunity for Manchester United, despite the worst start we've had since 1986. There's a real opportunity here to go and build that consistency word that we all know we need. Don't get beat by City. Beat Everton, beat Watford, beat Newcastle, beat Burnley, and then Arsenal. We've got a chance. And then you're talking about 6-7 game run of being unbeaten in the league then. This is why this game is so important. We've got to go and do it. Rashford can outrun Walker, says Jimmy. James Computers. Look, exactly. If you can get the ball to Marcus Rashford tomorrow with space to run into, he's going to be fine. We need these points, otherwise we could fall to 11th. Well, the results last night were hilarious, weren't they? I did Arsenal-Brighton on the watch-along and, Brighton did to them what they were meant to do to us a few weeks ago. So there's an opportunity for United to... And that's why it's really important as well. We don't want to be flirting with mid-table all season. And that's what's going to happen if you win one, lose one, draw one, lose one, win one. That's what we've been doing all season. If we can get on a run now, we've got an opportunity to stay ahead of teams like Spurs and Arsenal, get past Wolves, and then start looking above us. And that's what we need to do. What I don't want to see tomorrow or over the next few weeks is more dropping of points, because that's when we all start talking about the manager again. And I don't think the club have got any intention of removing the manager. And we're going to talk about it at 8 o'clock tonight. Apparently a lot of the players have said don't sack Ollie, which I think is ridiculous. I really don't give a shit what the players think about the manager. I don't. I think you are paid a lot of money to perform. You haven't performed over the last few years. Shut your mouths, get on with your job, and do what you're meant to do. Play football. Your opinion on the manager, irrelevant, because you don't perform well enough to have an opinion. And also, when players are saying don't sack the manager, a lot of them are doing it because they're like turkeys not voting for Christmas. They know their neck's on the line. So yeah, look, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Maguire injured for tomorrow, says Toby Cartwright. I've not heard about that. Not feeling well today, just clicked on this and made me a lot happier, says Ollie Barton. That's good. And win tomorrow and drag City into a mid-table battle, says Big Z. Well, look, if United were beating City tomorrow, I mean, you've got to. I think Pep's got to go, but that's nothing to do with me. I think he's had a terrible season. Otamendi has got big mistakes in him, says Eric Angel. I mean, what? Just on the live comments, very quickly. How confident are you of Manchester United winning on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being not confident at all, 5 being 50-50, 10 being absolutely convinced that we're going to win. For me, I would put myself on a... Well, no, not win, not lose. So I would put myself 7 out of 10. I'm 7 out of 10 that we shouldn't lose tomorrow, which is pretty confident, which means we get a draw or a win. I'm 7 out of 10 on that at the moment. Also, I just want to read you this out. I know it's coming towards the end of the video, but I do want to read you this out because this is why the United Stand is really important. This is from Phoebe. She says, "Dear Mark and the rest of the wonderful team at the United Stand, I just wanted to share with you and many others my great gratitude and shared love for the Manchester United between my dad and I. and how many laughs and discussions we've had when watching your channel. My wonderful dad suddenly passed away last week, and my family are now undoubtedly heartbroken. He grew up in the Midlands and has lived in Australia for the last 10 years after he and my mum migrated out here with my sister and me. He was only 52 when he suddenly left us, too soon in every way. He was a Manchester United fan through and through. He grew up supporting them and supported them through all the ups and downs through the decades. One thing he disliked about moving to Australia was the ridiculous times our matches would be played and the lack of match of the day on a Sunday afternoon. Thankfully, he discovered the United Stand and soon recommended that I watch your videos too. He loved when I'd call in and we'd chat about our latest results, talk about the club as a whole and the latest antics that Mark and the team got involved in. I suspect he enjoyed the reminder of the Midlands in Mark as well. I never did get asked to ask if he was truly Ollie in or out. I suspect he didn't tell me as he knew how much I loved Ollie as a player growing up. He did have these suspicions of where the club was going wrong though, sharing a particular interesting story about Mike Phelan not being a good enough assistant. We had plans to watch a game at Old Trafford together when we visited his parents in January. Unfortunately, those plans will never come to fruition, and for that I'm deeply upset. He was such a truly wonderful person. I am glad that I grow up sharing a love with United with him. I wanted to thank you all for your continued hard work. You provided my dad and myself with many laughs and smiles over the past couple of years, many of which I will cherish forever. From a saddened fan and continued supporter. And I tell you what, my voice went a little bit there because it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But it does show, through all the arguments that we get into, it does show what a fantastic community we've got on the United Stand. And I hope he rests in peace, Phoebe, and I hope I'm sure everybody in the United Stand community, in fact I can see in the live comments, will be sending our thoughts to you. So very, very sad news indeed, and thanks for the message. It did really touch me this morning, and that's why I wanted to read it out. So the show must go on, of course, and it always must. Please do smash a like on the video, of course. We're back at 8 o'clock tonight. Mr. Beast says, mad respect, Phoebe, from one Aussie to another. Thanks for all the nice messages in there. I hope Phoebe and her family are watching this at some point so they can see how much love there is out there. Check out the video with 888 Sport, this De Gea nonsense video. Go over there and check my comments out and just smash your comments in there. The link's in the video description. Edison's better than De Gea, and De Gea's finished apparently, according to Man City fan who started supporting them in 2008 probably. But links in the video description for that, in all seriousness. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like on the video and get your comments in, of course, in relation to the Solskjaer press conference. And I will see you live at 8 o'clock for Friday Night Live, where it's just a chilled out show, isn't it? We do lots of take a lot of your questions, maybe have a drink or two. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.